before you start in on your real plate, but only a couple of cuts because I want to have enough of these so that everybody gets to try it out before they're on their real one. Um, and then you're thinking about when you do move to your real one, which parts are going to be that um, colored part, which part are going to be the white. So you're going to have color and white no matter what. It's just, are you cutting the lines or are you cutting around the lines? So I'm actually going to do mine twice and you'll see it a couple different ways how it ends up. So you see here, I'm being very careful to stay on my lines and keeping my hand away from where I'm carving, trying to keep my hand behind or around my block. So I am carving away from my work. When you think you've carved everything, check it with a marker. So you can see here, I've missed the line on the tail here and a line connecting that way. So I'm going to add a little bit. All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with that one. It turns out pretty good. One more time. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. Marker first. Quickly press it into my sketchbook. Full palm press. Lift off. Yeah, okay, so I can see most of that detail and it looks pretty good. If something wasn't showing up well, I could go in and make some of the lines thicker. In fact, I might want to do that anyway, just because a lot of dark space is actually harder to print than if we have a lot of white space. For the version where you're cutting out the spaces between your lines, it is super, super helpful to actually go in and make these lines thicker so that you have kind of more buffer room in case you make a mistake and things will still show up kind of the way that you are wanting them to show up. So right now I'm going to just go in and like thicken up and maybe stylistically thicken up even some of my lines here so that the parts that are printing still going to have a lot of information that is cut away. It might be a little bit easier version to get into that assist with that. I want to make sure I'm thinking about how I'm cutting that stuff away when I'm doing it, because sometimes that stuff part that you cut away will also show up. So just be careful and be thoughtful. All right, so now that I've made those lines a little bit thicker, I'm going to start with my kind of larger tool and I'm going to carve away some of those bigger spaces, staying outside of my lines. And when I get close to where my lines are, I'm going to just kind of try to be careful and stop my tool short because I can always carve away more, but once it's gone, it's gone. But I'll show you why it would not work to just stop here. So if I take my marker and I color over, like it would work out there. Okay. But out in here, it's like totally muddled and I can't tell what's happening. So I could choose to do a combination of line cutting and space cutting if I wanted to, but I also really like the way that the line work shows up when you simply cut out your lines by cutting around the spaces between. So again, being careful about your hand placement as you're cutting, but you can get some pretty detailed imaging. I can test with just a marker to see if I got it and if it works. So I rub the marker just quickly across the whole surface of the little block here. You're going to get some of that chatter on the outside. That's okay, because when you actually stamp it in your sketchbook, you should have a pretty good impression of what that might look like. So that's pretty cool. I think it's working pretty well.